Well, you guys see that okay?
We do.
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for today's month of service presentation of taxpayer rights and income tax preparations. My name is Nia Murray. I am the programs coordinator with Neighborhood Recovery Community Development Corporation, and we are one of the partners in the A Month of Service collaboration. Also included, we have the City of Houston's Department of Neighborhoods, as well as the Harris County Tax Assessor Collector's Office, the Harris Central Appraisal District, Lone Star Legal Aid, the Earl Carl Institute, Texas Legal Services Center, and newly added this year is the Harris County Attorney's Office, as well as the Houston Volunteer Lawyers. And joining us today on behalf of those partners, we have Miss Marty Carmen Dollar and Joseph Barron, who will be presenting the information for you today. We want to welcome you all and thank you all for joining us again, and welcome to 2026. We have an array of different presentations that are going to be scheduled throughout this year, but this is the first one for the year for us. So again, we want to welcome you all and thank you all for joining us. But just to give you all just a little bit of a quick background, A Month of Service is the collaboration of all of our organizations coming together on a monthly basis and offering a variety of different workshops and resources and information to the community relative to community empowerment, asset building, asset protection, and the maintaining of generational wealth. We know that there are a lot of people out there that do not have access to a lot of different resources, access to a lot of information that's available to them. So we decided to collaborate several years ago in an effort to create a larger impact, to reach more people, considering that we all service the same communities. And we wanted to make sure that we got as much information, as much accurate information out there as we possibly can. We know that there's a lot of uh, misinformation that's out there. There's a lot of folks that's kind of giving blanket information, especially across social media platforms, that necessarily do not pertain to the state of Texas or what the actual laws may be. So we wanted to make sure that we actually have the professionals in those particular industries to provide you all with the most up-to-date information that is available to you all that can help assist with whatever issues that you're having. So today we know it's income tax season. And we know that there's a lot of folks that have questions about, tax preparations and what your rights are, and, appeals, and how not to leave money on the table. And, we work too much. We work too hard to have just your money just kind of going out the window and not knowing like about your deductions and what you can claim, and your rights if any kind of anything gets denied, or how do you appeal, or what is that process like? So we're going to have the professionals with Houston Volunteer Lawyers today to provide you all with that information and quite a bit more. This is your opportunity to ask questions that it is that you may have. We do also want to make sure that you all know that we are on a public platform. We do broadcast live on our social media channels on YouTube and share it on our other social media channels. And we want to try to protect your privacy as much as we possibly can. So we do ask that you try to keep your questions to be as general in nature as you can, so that you don't divulge any personal detail information and having it out there for everybody to have access to. So please feel free to type your question into the chat. You can also, if you're joining us on our social media channels, you can also type your questions into the comment section, and I'll make sure that your question is read aloud at the end of the presentation as well. Do note that you do have the opportunity, and we do encourage you to reach out to our legal service partners like Houston Volunteer Lawyers if you do find yourself in need of any civil legal assistance, taxpayer issues, or anything else that any other services that they may offer, for more detail or more one-on-one. So do not automatically discount yourself and assume that you don't qualify for services. We do encourage you again to apply, but for this particular presentation, we don't want to get into a whole lot of specific, detailed areas about any one particular situation, again, because we are on a public platform and there's limited information that they can actually share with you as it relates to your particular situation without them getting more information. And we don't want to divulge that information here. So again, try to keep your questions as general as you can, but we do encourage you to be interactive, encourage you to answer questions or to just voice some concerns that it is that you may have as it relates to taxpayer rights and income tax issues. So with that being said, again, we want to thank you and welcome you at the following this presentation. There will be a link that pops up. We ask that you just take a couple of minutes to complete the survey that goes up and let us know if the information was helpful, if there are any presentations that you all may be interested in throughout the year that you want more information about, or some kind of an issue that's impacting your community or your neighborhood, then please let us know so that we can take that into account as we're scheduling throughout the year. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to hand it over to Joseph Barron and to Miss Monty Carmendale. So go right
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate being here. Let me go ahead and share my screen so I can get our slides up and going. All right. Everybody see
Okay.
that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, my name is Monty Carmen Dollar. I am a supervising attorney at Houston Volunteer Lawyers. And I've got Joe Barron with me. He is a Hunton Andrews Kurth Fellow, working as a staff attorney in our office for a couple of years through that law firm's fellowship. He has a previous background in tax, which has been instrumental to our program. I am working with him in really trying to serve as many people as we can. So let's get started here. We're going to talk about what our HVL tax clinic does and go over some of the rights that you have as a taxpayer. Just one second while I get one of my screens squared away over here. Okay, so we're going to go over a few things here. Went a little too fast. This is what you will learn today. Who Houston Volunteer Lawyers is, what kind of organization we are, and what services we provide. Your rights as a taxpayer, what those rights are. Exam or audit, what is an exam or audit, and what to expect if you were chosen for one. Appeal or court, what to know about filing an appeal or going to tax court. Collections, what your options are in collections and what tools the IRS uses for collections, and typical issues experienced with the IRS. These are typical for what we see in our LITC clinic, which is Low Income Taxpayer Clinic. And then additional information and resources that hopefully will be useful to you, tools to you when you are working on your taxes or trying to resolve issues with your taxes. The presentation today, the slides from the presentation today should be provided to you with after the presentation by Miss Murray. Okay, we're Houston Volunteer Lawyers, and we're one of the largest providers of pro bono legal services in Harris County and surrounding areas. HVL promotes access to justice for individuals in the Houston area by assisting those who cannot afford legal representation in civil matters. We do not work on criminal matters, only civil. Some of the areas we cover in addition to tax would be probate, wills and estates planning. We do guardianships mostly for children that are entering adulthood and still need assistance. We also do, we have a veterans clinic. And so we provide all our services to veterans as well, but specifically go out into the veterans community to provide those services. There's various other areas that we also provide services on. But our services are all provided through volunteer lawyers. We do not provide our services directly, and that is how we are different from some of the other legal aid organizations in Harris County. So here is our application process. We do all our applications online at legalhelphouston.org. You can submit a paper application if necessary. We do have a procedure for that. Or you can do it over the telephone if there is a special need for that. But generally, if you have access to the internet, we ask that everyone file their applications at legalhelphouston.org. Once the application is processed, somebody from our office will contact you to do intake and to review your financial information to make sure you qualify for our services. If you meet the requirements, you will be scheduled to speak with an attorney, either a staff attorney or a volunteer attorney. As I said, we don't provide our services directly. We provide them through volunteers. We hold virtual legal clinics every week, and many of those are staffed by volunteer attorneys. We talk to many individuals through those legal clinics throughout the year, and you have an opportunity to spend about 20 minutes speaking with a volunteer attorney about your. Right now, the only legal clinic that we provide out to the public in person is the Veterans Legal Clinic, which is every Friday afternoon at the VA hospital. Eligibility is based on income and assets. To be eligible for free legal services, you've got to meet two criteria, which is reside in greater Houston area, surrounding counties, and you have to meet income guidelines. We have a few different income guidelines that have to be met depending on which area you're coming into and what our grants say. Okay, your rights as a taxpayer. This is where I'm going to pass it off to Joe to go ahead and get into the meat of this presentation. The presentation is about your rights as a taxpayer, what you can do when you have issues with the IRS. Houston Volunteer Lawyers does not file taxes, but we're going to give you some information on what organizations do that for you.
Thank you, Mari Carmen. Everyone, thank y'all for having us. We really appreciate being invited to provide y'all with some education related to the IRS and your taxes. As the title says, we're here to help you understand your rights as a taxpayer with the IRS. What we mean by that is what can you do? What are the processes? Just we want to make you comfortable working with the IRS. Everybody views it as this big beast that's just trying to eat every penny they can from you. And we want to try to demystify that a little bit and make it seem more tame. So that way, if you do have to interact with the IRS, it's not something that you're scared or afraid of, but it's something that you'll have no problem working through, communicating, and handling on your own, or you'll at least know where to go to try to seek out some advice and help related to your issue. All right. So most people don't know, but there is actually a taxpayer bill of rights. Back in 2015, this was signed into law and became part of the IRS. And so what that means for all of us as taxpayers is that the IRS has to incorporate these specific rights into everything that they do, all of their processes, the organizational structure, everything that happens there has to conform to each one of these rights. Now, I don't want to read through all of this stuff because the reality is you can go online and type in publication one, which is the title of this Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and it'll pop up. It's 2 pages, and the Taxpayer Bill of Rights is going to cover everything that we discuss in this presentation today. So if you remember nothing else from this presentation, just remember the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, publication one. If you type that into Google, you're going to get this 2-page document, and it's going to have all of the information and details related to what we talked about today. And additionally, once you get this presentation, it'll also be included in there. Now, I do want to take a little bit of time to talk about the first 5 rights. The 6 through 10, those are pretty straightforward. I don't want to spend too much time on them, but the first five do really play a big part in what we're going to be talking about as far as dealing with the IRS and what you're allowed to do in your options depending on what you're dealing with. So the first one over there on the left-hand side says the right to be informed. What this means for you as a taxpayer is that the IRS can't hide the ball from you. They have to tell you exactly if they're going to do anything, they have to tell you what they're going to do. They're going to tell you why they're doing it, and they're going to tell you what you can do about it. They have to tell you this. They have to provide you all the instructions. They can't leave anything out. So what that means for you is that if you ever interact with them, they are going to give you a bunch of information. Now, it's going to seem like a lot, and that's the point, is they're trying to give you everything up front. It's on you as a taxpayer to actually exercise every one of these rights. So when they send you that information, if you read through it, it's going to explain what you can and can't do. And so we always recommend that you read through everything. That number two, the right to quality service. What that means is when you interact with the IRS, whoever you're dealing with, they have to be professional and courteous and prompt, just like dealing with any other business or entity out there. And so if you run into a situation where you feel you haven't received the quality service that you are owed as a taxpayer, there are avenues that you can take to rectify that, including requesting to speak to a supervisor, which they have to comply with. And then you can also report them through official channels through the IRS or other agencies. And of course, all that information will be made available to you on the IRS website. Now, these next three really are some of the big ones that I like to focus on. Three is the one that gets a lot of people because, as I mentioned, most folks view the IRS as this organization that's trying to nickel and dime everybody. But the reality is, the IRS doesn't want you to pay any more tax than you're supposed to. They want you to pay the correct amount of tax. Um, and the way they do that is they maintain a database of all of your financial dealings throughout the year and anything that's related to your taxes or that's going to affect it. Think your W-2s, your 1099s, any type of information that's getting sent to you to file with your tax return, that gets sent to the IRS as well. And so they're maintaining that database. And so when you submit your return, they're just checking it to make sure that everything lines up. So they truly are just trying to make sure you're paying the correct amount of tax. But if for any instance, what you submit doesn't reflect what the IRS has, they're going to send you a letter to let you know, which goes back to that right to be informed. And in that letter, they're also going to tell you if you disagree with us, here's what you can do. That's going to be your fourth right, the right to challenge the IRS's position and be heard. Anytime the IRS makes any type of determination, they're going to let you know what that determination is and what you can do about it if you disagree. This is going to be more so your exams, your audits, if you're familiar with that. If not, we'll discuss those here in a minute. Now, that's the first level of real review within the IRS, and they'll ultimately reach a determination if you challenge them. But if you're not happy with that determination, you can also appeal, which is your fifth right. So the right to appeal to an IRS decision to an independent forum. And that's where we get into the appeals and the courts that Mari Carmen had mentioned earlier. Those are the five main ones. We're going to spend some time related to them. This is the second page of that publication one. Like I said, these two pages cover all the topics that we're going to be discussing today and have all that information on here. On this thing, the big ones to take note of are examinations, appeals, and collections. The reason I point that out is because those are three of the biggest units within the IRS. The IRS is really comprised of four units. Those three being exams, appeals, and collections, and then of course processing is your initial one. So let's talk about some of these first. So an exam, what is an exam? So an exam is simply trying to verify the accuracy of your return. So remember I said that when you submit your return to the IRS compares your return and what you put on it to the database that they have with all the information that they've been getting reported on over the year. And they do it every year for every taxpayer. They collect your information and they essentially narrow down and determine what they feel your tax liability is going to be for that year within an error margin. And so when you submit your tax return and it goes into that processing unit, that first group, if you will, if there is any discrepancies, they're going to let you know that there is a discrepancy. Now, with the IRS, the way they work is the IRS is presumed correct until you prove otherwise. So remember, they have a database of all of the financial dealings you've had in that year related to your taxes. And so when they develop your tax liability, they have a pretty good idea of where you should fall when you submit your tax returns. And so when your tax return comes in and there is that discrepancy and you fall outside of it, well, they remove the things that they don't have in their system because they are presumed correct and you are presumed incorrect. And so what happens at that point is they're going to send you a letter to know that, hey, we've made a change to your tax return because we didn't have certain information. Uh, and then later on there, they're going to tell you if you disagree with us, respond, let us know. Now, if you disagree with them and you respond, that's how you end up in an exam or an audit. Because what you're saying is the IRS is wrong because they are missing information. And so when you go to the exam or audit, they truly are trying to figure out, okay, well, what is the information we're missing and why are we missing it? And so what happens in that in an exam or an audit, and we refer to them as both, and they're used interchangeably. Uh, but they're going to reach out to you, and they're going to do one of two things. They're going to either initiate a correspondence exam or an in-person exam. Those are the two types of exams you could potentially have if you end up in that area. A mail or a correspondence exam is simply done through mail. Here, we've also been seeing email depending on the type of communication. In-person exams, there's really three different types. One is a field office exam. So the IRS in every major city has field offices. And so if you end up in a field office exam, you'll simply have to go to that location, meet with the IRS representative or agent, and work through the exam with them. The other option is they can come to your home and perform the exam there. They can also do virtual exams. Uh, they can also, if you have a business that's related to the issue, they may show up at your business to do the exam there. So those are all things to keep in mind. You can also request a certain type. So if you have disabilities or limitations or things like that, you can always let them know ahead of time and tailor what type of exam you're going to have. A couple other items to know about on here is for a lot of folks, especially individuals and lower income who are claiming certain types of credit that give money back to you, those will always end up in an exam. And so for individuals who end up in an exam year after year after year for the exact same issue, if you have won or if you've proven that you did nothing wrong year after year, after 2 years of that, the third year, if you get popped for an exam again, you can let the IRS know that, hey, we already did this last year, the year before, and however many years before that. And according to their guidelines, they have to, or they should cancel that new exam. The way it works is if you go into exams, they're only looking at that specific year. They're not looking at all your other years unless that's an issue. So if you don't alert them to the fact that you've done this multiple times, they're not going to see that. So always, always, always try to stay in contact or reach out to your exam rep or agent if you find yourself in an exam and maintain that communication. Make sure that you are letting them know any issues that may come up or discrepancies that you may deal with or disabilities that you have related to conducting the exam. All right, next slide. So how are exams going to get started? What's it look like? Let's kind of walk through an example so you know what to expect if you find yourself in this situation. So remember, when you submit your tax return, it goes into, let's say, this first group, which is processing. That first group, it's going to compare your tax return to the database. And if there's a discrepancy, you're going to get a letter saying that. That letter is going to have a section towards the middle to end that's going to say, if you disagree with us, here's what you have to do. Now, you have to follow that to the T to exercise your rights. So remember, when I said the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, those are your rights, but the IRS is correct unless you prove them wrong. So you have to actually exercise your rights by following the instructions. And you have to follow them to a T, because if you don't, then the IRS can say that you didn't exercise your right. And so in that letter, it's going to have a section that says, if you disagree with us, and it's going to tell you what you need to do, who you need to contact, but more importantly, it's going to have deadlines. It's going to tell you specific dates that you need to get things done by. Now, if you want to move forward or if you do disagree, you'll follow those instructions to a T, and what'll happen is they're going to submit your file into the exam group. So you started in the processing, but now you're going over to exams and audits. Now, once you get there, you're going to get another letter from that group, from the exam group, that says, hey, you are now being examined. This is what we are looking at, and these are the types of items that we're going to need. That initial letter from the exam group may list out specific items that they're looking for. It may say that they're currently just looking at your file and will reach out if they need anything further. Make sure you're reading through that. If they do request certain documents, that's where you need to start organizing your records and getting all of your documentation ready, so that way you can send it to them in whatever manner that they request, be that mail, email, upload, or anything else. Now, when you're doing an exam, when you're actually conversing with the IRS and agent, it's a very informal process. A lot of times you're doing this through phone calls and emails, and any major important stuff is always going to be done through certified mail. Now, of course, sometimes folks are extremely busy and they don't have time to handle this themselves. So you can always have someone else, such as your attorney, your CPA, or someone else with proper authorization talk to the IRS on your behalf and handle your exams or audits. That's what LITCs are here for, and that's what we can also help with. Now, as you provide your information to that examiner, they're going to let you know if what you're sending them is satisfying the issue or if it's not. Once they get to the end, if there is nothing else for you to send or do, they're going to look at all the information that they have and make a final determination and basically say, yes, we agree with you. We agree in part, disagree in part, or we disagree entirely. If the IR or if you don't supply them with everything for a full agreement, then they don't have to agree with you, and they can move forward with whatever tax liability that they had assessed or found previously. And so, just like at the beginning stage of this, they're going to send you a letter that says, this is our final determination. These were our findings. These are why we made these findings. But also, there's going to be a section on there that says, hey, if you disagree with the findings from our exam unit, here's what you need to do. Here's who you need to contact. And again, most importantly, here are the dates you need to get this stuff done by. And that moves us into our appeals. So if you are not happy with what happens in your exam and how it turns out, you always have the right to appeal, and they have to let you know how to do that. And it's going to be in the letters that they send you, which is why I'm going to keep beating this dead horse. Always read these letters from tooth to tail. Read them twice, read them upside down, always read them because they have all the information you need to resolve whatever the issue is. It's just you have to comply with it to the T. With appeals, there's really two areas of appeals. Within the IRS, like I mentioned, you have your processing unit, you have your exams and audit units, and then you also have your appeals unit. So the appeals is an independent office within the IRS. What that means is It doesn't talk to the exam office. It doesn't review the exam finder's notes or anything like that. If you decide to appeal an exam, you go to the Office of Appeals and it's like starting fresh. Now, the nice thing with the Office of Appeals is these are seasoned IRS representatives. These are folks that have been doing this for a significant amount of time, have a lot of institutional knowledge, but more importantly, they have a lot of discretion in what they do compared to your exams and audits grouping. So when you're in appeals, if exams don't go your way, we always recommend appealing if you believe that you have the information to satisfy whatever the issue is. The appeals people know what they're doing, and they'll be a little bit more lenient on what you're providing than the folks in the exam side. Uh, Now, along with uh, your right to appeal, you also have the right to go to court. So once you're done with exams, if you don't like that decision, they're going to say you can appeal and or you can go to U.S. tax court. Now, the reality is we're not going to spend too much time on tax court. Tax court is built for individuals to handle it alone without legal representation. They make it very straightforward. But the reality is if you ever do submit a petition to go to tax court, they're just going to send you to the Office of Appeals because the tax court does not want to do trials. They want the IRS to try to settle all of their issues. And so the tax court is its own unique entity outside of the IRS. It has nothing to do with the IRS. And so what'll happen is if you ever submit a petition there, they're going to look and see if you worked with the Office of Appeals within the IRS. If you have, then they'll proceed as normal. If you haven't, they're going to send you right back to the Office of Appeals in hopes that you're going to reach a settlement and you won't have to proceed further in court. And you have the
Joe, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is tax court pro se friendly?
Yes, tax court is pro se friendly. It is built for you to go there without a lawyer and to talk to the judge, talk to the IRS counsel, and work through whatever your issues. It is very informal. Everybody here is U.S. tax court, and they, of course, get scared. Nobody wants to go to court. As an attorney that goes to a lot of different courts, I can tell you it's one of the nicest and most informal courts out there. The judges really do just talk and they're trying to help you figure out the problem and they work with you as the individual that doesn't have representation. So please don't be scared if that is one of your options or your only option that you need to move forward with. Now, after appeals, just like well, once you're done with appeals, as the taxpayer, that's pretty much the end of the line as far as trying to fight back and correct whatever the issues. Uh, Depending on your circumstances, there may be some unique situations, but by and large, if you come out of appeals and you don't get the results you want and you still have a tax liability, meaning you owe money to the IRS, then you go to the next group, which is collections. So this is that fourth group within the IRS. Now, collections truly is no different than any other collections agency out there. The whole role of it is to recover the money that's owed to the IRS. On the screen, you can see the publications if you want to go learn more about them. But the reality is, there's only a handful of things that can be done here. Next slide. Thank you. So first off, I want to start with the IRS and what they can do, and then I want to talk about your options as a taxpayer. The IRS, they have a lot of tools at their disposal to recover any funds that are owed to them. But by and large, what we see them do is going after people's assets, garnishing wages, things like that. Now, outside of the IRS going after that money and going after all of your stuff to try to recuperate that money, they can also notify other government entities such as the State Department. And so if you do have outstanding debt that you are not actively working to rectify, they will send you to the State Department and the State Department will deny your passport applications. And if it goes on for a significant amount of time, they will revoke your passports. So these are things to keep in mind. So I say this because always try to take action Any action's better than none. And so what kind of actions can you as a taxpayer do if you find yourself in collections? Well, really, there's three main ones. There's a lot of different options depending again on your unique circumstances and situations to undo the things that the IRS has done. But by and large, if you owe money and you are not you're done contesting it, you admit like I do owe this money, then there's really only three major options for you, and it's the ones you see up top: installment payments, delaying collection action, and offer and compromise. I'm gonna go a little out of order really quick. Delaying collection action, we refer to that as currently non-collectible. What that means is you can call the IRS and you can ask them to put your account on a pause, essentially. So if you find yourself in a hardship situation, you're tight on cash, you don't have extra funds to pay off this debt, but you don't want to just leave it hanging and not do anything about it, you can call the IRS and talk to them, explain your situation, and ask them to put your account into a temporary, currently non-collectible status, or ask them to delay collection action. And what that does, if they grant it, is for 12 months, they will not pursue any type of action towards you. You're not going to try to go after your assets. They're not going to try to garnish your wages or anything like that. You are basically just on pause. Now, that's the good part. The bad part about putting your account on pause is you're still collecting interest and penalties daily. And so your tax liability is just going up and up and up and up by the day. It's just they're not going to take any action. And depending on your specific situation, you may be able to continue extending that year after year. But for most people, at some point, it's going to end, and then you're going to have to move on to a different option. Other options, if you can't pay in full, include payment plans or installment payments. Basically, you will talk to the IRS, let them know your income, your assets, your expenses, and they're going to say, based off of what you've provided, you can pay about X amount of dollars. And you can accept that. If you feel that is still too high, then you can continue to negotiate with them and ask them to accept a lower amount, and you'll have to explain why. If installment payments are just out of the question, you don't have any disposable money to make payments every month, then one of the other options you have is what's called an offer and compromise. This is truly a negotiation with the IRS saying, look, I owe you this much money. I agree I owe this money. I don't have anything to pay you to get rid of this, but I do have, let's say the tax liability is $1,000. You can say, well, I have $100 and that's all I can pay. And what you're doing is you're trying to negotiate a smaller amount, and they may accept it, they may not. Uh, I'll be very honest, offers and compromise, they only work if you truly are in a very hard situation and you don't have any assets or significant just extra cash after you pay all of your monthly expenses. If you have equity in your home, if you have extra houses or cars or investments or things like that, most likely this will not work for you. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't apply for it and try, because everybody's situation is unique and different. And so you may want to try this as an avenue to see if it can resolve your issues. All right.
Joe, can I add a little something there? So when you're working with the IRS to ask for an installment payment plan, to enter non-collectible status, or to make an offer and compromise, the first step is going to be doing a financial review with the IRS, and they can do it over the phone. There's actually a form that you can print, and you can fill it all out beforehand so that you have and gather all the documents so that you have them available. But they're going to want to know things like, do you rent or do you own your home? What car payments do you make? How much do you spend on certain items every month? How much is your take-home pay every month? So be prepared to share that information. It doesn't take all that long to do this. It's probably 30 minutes of providing information. And it's not difficult, but if you're prepared, it goes a lot faster. Especially since you have to get a hold of the IRS to begin with, and sometimes that can be difficult. So it's good to have everything all together. So you call them once, you do it all, and then they give you an answer shortly after.
Yep. Thank you, Monty Carmen. I completely forgot to mention that. Um, to follow up with that really quick, if you're under $10,000, they can do everything over the phone and you don't even have to do the form. Over 10,000, you will have to fill out whatever the form that Monty Carmen was talking about. And again, it's just your income assets. The other thing to be aware of is the all of those options that I laid out for you to help relieve your tax burden. They are only available if you are current with the IRS. And so what I mean by that is if you have filed your tax returns every year that you are supposed to, then you are considered current. And if you have missed any year that you were supposed to file, then you are not current. And if you are not current, the IRS does not have to work with you in any way, shape, or form. So some of those rights go out the window because you haven't done what you're supposed to do, which is file your taxes.
But an easy fix to that is to go file those missing taxes, and then you can turn around and work with the IRS. I want to apologize. I'm looking at this next slide, and there's markings all over it, check marks,
I
and
don't know where that's coming from.
I have no idea what happened there, but please, everyone, disregard them. They mean nothing.
Um, Before I jump into the tax frauds, do see a question in the chat that says, do penalties apply during the delayed collection period as well, or just interest? Interest and penalties, both of them, accrue daily. If you have a principal balance, a debt that you owe the IRS, that principal debt is going to incur interest and penalties daily until it is completely paid off, regardless of what status it is in. All right, so major tax frauds and schemes. I encourage everybody to go to the IRS website and type in tax fraud, schemes, any of these keywords. What you're going to end up popping up with is a report. Every year after tax season, the IRS releases a report of the top tax fraud schemes that they've identified. Now, I'm not going to go through all these, but I do want to touch on a couple of these that have the asterisk because these are the most prominent ones that we see community members here facing, and we want to make sure that you're well aware of them going into tax season. Uh, First one is dishonest tax preparers. What is a dishonest tax preparer? This is someone who is not an actual preparer, who is not qualified, who doesn't have the proper credentials, who is preparing your return, but they are not putting their professional information on there. And so when you sign it and submit it, it's as if you did it yourself. Now, generally, what happens here is the dishonest preparer is taking your fee, whatever you paid them, and then they're leaving. And then the IRS is going to pop you for an exam because whatever they put on there most likely is not going to match what the IRS has. And you're going to be left having to deal with whatever issues that they did. Um, the With the IRS, remember I said they are correct until you prove them wrong. Additionally, you are the one who agreed to all of the numbers on your return if you signed it, unless you can show otherwise. When you sign your return, right above it, it says that you have reviewed it, you agree to everything, and you are taking responsibility for all of it. So even if that tax preparer lied about everything, the second you put your signature on it, you made yourself responsible for it. So make sure you are talking to these preparers and understanding their qualifications. Make sure that they are putting their information and signing that return as well and putting their tax preparer information. So that way, if there is any issue, the IRS can be notified of them. In addition to that, the other ones we see are related to refund scams and tax credits. Uh, Really, the refund scams, these come from your refundable credits, your child tax credit, your earned income tax credit, things like this, where if you claim the credit, you can actually get cash in hand, a refund check. Um, so we see that a lot of return or some return preparers will inflate or put things on there or label dependents or individuals that don't actually qualify as children or relative dependents. And that gets the individuals in trouble because, again, once you sign that return, you are attesting that that is true and correct and everything is right. And so if they identify any discrepancy on there that takes those credits away, and then you're going to be on the hook for paying them back. And then, of course, by that time, you've already paid your tax preparer or whoever else, and they are gone. So just be cognizant of that. If you see that they're claiming things or you see numbers on there that you don't know, ask questions, ask them to explain it. You can ask them to provide you anything and everything. Whatever that tax preparer does for you, you are entitled to see. You're entitled to know. So please ask them questions. The other one is the fake tax credits. So in addition to claiming like certain refundable credits, they'll claim other types of credits for businesses that people don't actually qualify for. The biggest one we see is what's called the fuel tax credit. Now, this is a credit that's meant for farming and any off-road style businesses that have off-road vehicles that have to use lots of gas and other types of fuel. It is very limited on who can take it, but we've seen a lot of 1099 or like Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, folks like that that have claimed on our returns. And when we ask them about it, it's like, oh, well, my tax return preparer told me I qualified for this. And that's not the case. They don't qualify. Most people will not qualify for that credit, but it is a very large credit. And so preparers will use it to inflate the refund when they submit that return. So that way their payment or the whatever you're going to pay them is usually tied to how much of a refund you get. So the higher they inflate it, the more that they're able to make as a tax return preparer. But of course, the IRS catches it, takes that credit back, and now you owe it back to the IRS, and you're the one left having to pay it, and they've already ran off. Um, and this is very important. The IRS very rarely is going to go after these tax preparers that are committing fraud and scamming taxpayers because you usually sign the return, though, so they're coming after you. They will annotate that this person committed fraud against you, but at the end of the day, any of those errors are still going to be assigned to you and you're going to be responsible for fixing them. So please pay attention to what your tax preparers are doing, ask questions, and don't be afraid to push back and not sign things if you're not comfortable.
Yeah, always review what they're submitting on your behalf before you sign it. Another just side note is, like Joe said, the IRS, you signed it, you're going to be responsible for it. However, the IRS does want you to report it. So in those circumstances where you do have the tax preparer information, there is a form that the IRS has that you can fill out to go ahead and report that fraud. Now, whether they follow up on it or not is an IRS issue. You won't hear back about that. But they do go after, if they see certain preparers popping up a lot, they are going to investigate them. But they're two separate matters. The reporting of the tax preparer and then your taxes. You still have to work out a resolution on your tax issue.
With that said, I will say just be very cautious. Make sure whoever you use is reputable and stay away from folks that you find online or social media. So now that we've kind of walked through a lot of what you can expect when dealing with the IRS, I just wanted to walk through three different examples. These are some of the most common issues we've seen with folks that come through our low income tax clinic. So the first example is we have a taxpayer who owes around $5,000 but can't pay a lump sum. And they just can't pay it outright. And so what we end up doing is we'll help them put their IRS account into a currently non-collectible status while we help set them up a payment plan that works with whatever discretionary income they have. Next example we have is elderly taxpayer who owes $15,000, has no assets, and can't afford a monthly payment plan. So why do we have elderly in here? Because the IRS looks at what the probability is that someone's going to be able to pay something back. And If someone is a lot older on fixed income, the likelihood of them being able to pay back is significantly smaller than, say, someone that's in their 20s or 30s that does have a larger income. And so, in somebody in this situation where they can't afford any monthly payment, they don't have any additional assets, they don't own anything, well, the IRS is never going to collect on them. They're never going to be able to get their money back. And so, this person is a great candidate for an offer in compromise. And so, we would help them submit an offer in compromise for the lowest amount that they could possibly pay. And I will say, offers in compromise, you can go all the way down to $1. Whether or not they're going to accept it is a different story, but you can take it down to $1. The last one we have is a taxpayer who owes 10,000 and has a payment plan already, but they're falling behind. The monthly payment is just too much for them. Well, if you run into that issue where you have tried to resolve it, you've set up a payment plan, but now we're a year or two down the road, your situation has changed, you can reach out to them and try to reduce it. You can negotiate and explain your hardships and get a smaller payment. So don't ever feel like you don't have options. You can always try to negotiate with the IRS. Again, as long as you are current, as long as you have done everything that you're supposed to do with them, they're going to work with you as much as possible. All right, and I will turn it back over to Mari Carmen to walk through some resources so that way you know where to go for help.
Okay, I'm realizing, thank you, Joe. That was really good information. I'm realizing that whatever these little marks and things are on here, I don't know how they got there, but I will say I may have done it and just don't know how I did it and how to remove them. So I apologize if they're distracting. We want to provide some additional information and resources for you that we think are very helpful. So the first thing is setting up an IRS account online and what the benefits are. This is a great tool for anybody personally, just to be able to go into their IRS online account and see all the notices that have been sent by the IRS. You can see the taxes that have been filed. You can see the documents that have and information that have been provided by employers, your retirement accounts, your different accounts, things like that. You can see transcripts of your taxes, of the actions taken by the IRS. So it is definitely an account that everyone should set up if you don't have one already. It does use ID Me, which means you have to provide certain pieces of information and you have to scan them and send them in, or you can do a live call. But once you set up that ID Me account, you can use it with any of the government websites. I know Social Security Administration uses it, the Veterans Administration uses it. And one of our attorneys brought up a really good point. If you don't go in and set up your ID Me account, somebody else could set it up for you as identity fraud. So it's always a good idea to go in and set that up, even if you're not going to use it. Get that ID Me account set up so that nobody else can set it up and pretend that they are you. But you can get all this information on the website. So I'm about to show you a video from the IRS YouTube channel. They've got a great channel that's got all different kinds of videos that you can watch through that give you details and information about some of the different functions and issues that the IRS has. Now, finding it is going to be a whole other issue right here. I set it up. I don't know where I'm going to find it.
And while Mari Carmen's looking for that, one of the fraud
IRS
things
online account.
Go ahead, Joe.
Oh no, I was gonna say one of the fraud schemes that they've noticed, it has been people committing identity fraud to access people's online accounts because then that gives them access to all of their information, and so they can start filing fraudulent returns and things like that on your behalf, so they can receive the benefits.
Okay, let me see if I
Stop,
can.
stop your original screen share and then choose the video. Go and then do screen share again and then go to the video.
Well, let's see if I can find where the video is. I just pulled it up and we are going to have to do it again.
IRS online account for individuals.
I don't know where it is.
For you to manage your personal federal
We can
taxes.
hear it. I can't see it.
Save time by going online instead of calling and waiting on the phone. To get started, go to irs.gov/account. Once there, click Sign into your online account.
Is your browser open?
Can y'all see it?
Which helps the IRS.
No.
No, do share.
From the Account Home tab.
Okay, let's try the share again. I stopped the other share though, right?
You
Yes.
stopped. It's just you on the screen now.
Okay, so let's try
if it
this
doesn't
one more
open,
time.
Mari Carmen, we can just keep going because I believe the presentation is going to be provided to everyone, correct?
Okay, well, I found it.
Ah, perfect.
I found it. Can y'all see that?
Not yet. It's just,
No.
oh, there it is. Got it.
Account for Individuals is a tool that makes it easier for you to manage your personal federal taxes. Save time by going online instead of calling and waiting on the phone. To get started, go to irs.gov/account. Once there, click Sign into your online account. From there, you can access ID.me, which helps the IRS verify and protect your identity and data. From the Account Home tab, you can quickly see your account status card displaying any amount owed. You can make a payment or create a payment plan through the View Payment Options link. You can also view pending, scheduled, processed, canceled, or returned payment activity from the Payments tab. You can also view your tax records in the Records and Status tab. You can see digital copies of certain IRS notices in the Notices and Letters tab. IRS Online Account is also available in Spanish. The IRS continues to add improvements as part of our transformation work, so be sure to check back often for new features. Log into your IRS Online Account today to better manage your personal taxes by visiting irs.gov/account.
And you can see over here on the right all the different videos that they have. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for bearing with me, and let me get back to our presentation.
And as an FYI, I'll include that link so that people can go directly to it when I email the copy of the presentation as well.
Okay, so the next tool that we have recently played around with is the Interactive Tax Assistance. So again, that is at irs.gov, and it allows you to put in a search to come up with information about your particular situation. Now, you need to be pretty general when you're doing it, but for the most part, it'll take you to the IRS publication that'll provide information for you to be able to hopefully answer your own question or proceed with claiming the credit or, finishing up your taxes. Okay, so then this is what I was referring to earlier with the VITA locations that can actually prepare your taxes for you. So this is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, and it offers free tax return preparation to qualified individuals. There are many locations around Houston. Specifically, Baker Ripley provides this service, and in addition to other locations. One of the LITCs that low-income taxpayer clinics like ours here in Houston at South Texas College of Law also provides VITA services. But in the event that you are working with the IRS on a problem and you can correct that problem by filing an amended return, we always suggest that our clients go to VITA, get that amended return, and then come back to us so that we can resolve the issue. Or if you're doing it on your own, come back, file your amended return with VITA, and then return to the IRS to show them that you did that and complete your resolution of the issue. Taxpayer Advocacy Service is an independent organization within the IRS that helps protect taxpayer rights. So basically, they can answer questions for you, and if you're having trouble handling a problem and with the IRS or there's some kind of issue, you can contact them to see if there is something that they can help you resolve with the IRS. And their contact information is here at the bottom. Low Income Taxpayer Clinic is what we are. South Texas College of Law has one, and Lone Star Legal Aid as well. We all provide our services a little bit differently. Ours is through volunteer attorneys. Lone Star is mainly through direct services, and South Texas College of Law is a combination of direct services and law student assistance. So these services also are free for the most part, and we try to provide services in other languages as well. Here's the IRS contact information, forms and publications. They've got lots and lots of forms and publications. If you go to irs.gov, look around, you will see there is a wealth of information there. And it is all very helpful. There's a lot of it, and it may lead to, other questions, but for the most part, you can find good general information there at the irs.gov website. And then, of course, there are a couple other resources, a small business ombudsman and Treasury Inspector General for other issues that you may experience. And I believe that's it.
We have
That's
one
the end.
question. Why doesn't VITA assist with rental property tax prep? Is there a tax support program for rental taxes? So unfortunately, a lot of the volunteer programs, whether it's low-income tax clinics, VITA, volunteer income tax preparation, a lot of these are built for individuals that don't have businesses or additional income outside of just their normal job. So essentially, it's deemed if you're pulling in rental income or other things like that, then you'll be able to provide seek out your own assistance.
Okay. There's another question that I got. Is there a set limit on charitable donations to claim in a tax year?
So I am not a tax preparer. I don't prepare those, but what I would recommend if you do have those questions is talk to your preparer because they change every year. It's going to be different depending on what your circumstances are. Things can look different for you. And same thing with VITA. If you're going to go to VITA, you can talk with them about that and just bring all of your receipts and anything you have.
Okay. Some people aren't familiar with our tax system and don't always file by the deadline. Are there penalties for this?
Yes. So every year you have to file your tax return by April 15th or the following business day if it's on the weekend. However, you can file for an extension. So you can, if you have your online account that Mari Carmen was talking about, you can do it on there. You don't even need the account. You could do it online if you want to. But you would just file an extension basically saying, here's what I think I'm going to be, and I will submit my stuff no later than October 15th. And so they will extend it out to October 15th for you to submit your return. But yes, if you owe money after April 15th, the due date that your return is supposed to be in, you are going to incur interest and penalties so long as you have a tax debt.
And even after, if you've missed the deadlines, you missed the April 15th one, you didn't ask for an extension, you missed the October 15th, you still need to file your taxes. You are going to incur penalties and fees, but the taxes still need to be filed or your problem's going to be even bigger.
So just to kind of go off of that, so yes, you need to file your taxes, but remember at the beginning of this presentation, I said that the IRS collects all of your financial transactions that relate to taxes. So they know what you've been doing that year and whether or not you're supposed to have a return. If you don't submit one, the IRS is going to make one for you. And the problem if they make it for you is they don't care about your expenses, your deductions, or things like that. They only care about the income and how much taxes are paid on that income. So if they prepare that return for you, they are not going to include your standard deductions or itemized deductions or anything like that. And your tax liability is going to be greater. And then it's just going to cause the process is going to take longer to resolve because then you're going to have to fix that issue and then still get your returns and everything filed.
And Joe, they don't let you know right away that you're missing your taxes. It could
No.
be up to 3 years.
Generally, you won't know that there's an issue for a while. The IRS, unfortunately, does take a little bit of time to communicate with folks. So most of the taxes that are going to be filed this year for tax year 2025 that are getting filed within the next couple of months, the most of those that are going to end up in an exam or audit or things like that won't be popped for another year or so. It takes some time for them. They can go after stuff as far as 3 years back. So they may barely start popping people from their 22 tax returns this year. So you may not get it right away, but they will let you know.
Did you say that they can only go back 3 years for an audit?
Generally, they're only going to be able to go back 3 years unless there's some very unique circumstances that basically put your account on pause. It most likely is not going to apply to most folks, though.
Okay. Another question here. I'd like to know if there are any changes for the filer with an ITIN or income tax identification number, so so that people can still do the file and register their business with no social security number.
That's getting out of my wheelhouse, but your
Oh,
ITIN is going to act no different than a social security number for the purposes of the IRS. That's all it's doing is it's replacing the social security number so they have a way of tracking whoever the individual is and the taxes being reported for that year. It shouldn't change anything, but again, talk to whoever your tax preparer is that's going to be putting it together to verify that information.
what is it that people should know about the money that they receive from like what do you call it? Cash apps and Venmos and all that
Here.
kinds of stuff. Because I know that there was supposed to be some IRS now being reported to the IRS when people are getting
Yep.
money from Cash App and stuff like that.
Exactly. So remember I said that any of those financial transactions that are going to relate to taxes, they're going to send you some type of form, 1098, 10 something, and it's going to have that information on there. Well, that form's also getting sent to the IRS. So if they send you these forms, make sure that you are providing that to your tax preparer. If you didn't receive forms and you know that you've had a lot of transactions and you're like, wait a minute, I feel like this might be something, I would bring that up to your tax preparer, show them your statements. Maybe yours just didn't cross the threshold to qualify for having to be reported. That's a good thing. But maybe there was an error, there was an issue. So it's always best to check with whoever is going to be preparing your taxes. But you have to be the one that is informing them and engaging them to ensure that you're getting that service and that they're doing it appropriately.
Does that apply to PayPal as well?
All of them.
All of them. Okay. All right. Cool. Good deal. The other thing that I wanted to ask about, and then I completely lost train of thought just now, because I was looking in the chat to make sure I didn't miss anything. I think I got all of those. Just double checking my emails and things, make sure I'm not missing anybody's questions here.
Of course.
Yeah, I think those are all the questions that I had that were in the chat. But I did have my own, and it'll come back to me.
And with tax season here, remember VITA, the Volunteer Income Tax Service or Assistance, is available. Most folks, if you are I want to say, what is it, like a single household below like 60,000, you're going to qualify, but and the range goes up the number of people in your household and things like that. It's
I think it's
always
65,000.
Yeah, it's always best to call or show up and talk to them because they may still be able to service you if you're just outside of those thresholds. But if you don't have a very complicated return, it's straightforward. Vita is a free service that can assist you so that way you're getting your taxes done by professionals, it's done correctly, and you know it's a trusted organization.
There's one
Uh,
more question. How do you determine if money from Social Security is taxable?
Again, they're supposed to be letting you know and sending that to you. The certain portion, depending on your Social Security, can be taxable. If you have not received any document for that year, make sure that you are having that conversation with whoever is preparing your taxes, and you inform them that you did receive a certain amount of money from Social Security, what type of Social Security it was, and any documentation you have, because they're going to want to review your circumstances to determine if every dollar is excluded or if any portion of it is taxable or anything like that. It's that's not something I'd be able to determine over this. That's something you'd have to determine with your tax preparer and your documentation.
So the answer is maybe.
Maybe.
and depends. That's the attorney
Depends.
question.
It depends.
Always.
Depends.
Yes.
Everything depends. Uh,
And I have heard also at one point that like monies that people receive from certain inheritances and from like insurance settlements and or like accident settlements that's not taxed as income. Is that
it
accurate?
all depends. You're
All
not gonna
depends.
like my answer. It all depends on how it's structured and the settlements. A lot of times, any windfalls, which is what these are looked at, whether you're receiving settlements or a bank is wiping out your debt because they don't want to deal with it anymore, all of these things, they can be taxable. So make sure you have all the documentation related to that situation because you may fall into a niche category that, excludes you from being taxable. But unless you have documentation to show that, the IRS is going to have what they have, and they are correct unless you can prove them otherwise. So make sure you have your documentation, you show that to whoever is paying your taxes, and ask them to walk you through why you qualify or why you don't qualify.
Mm.
So,
Uh,
and just to be clear, we don't provide tax services. We provide legal services about unresolved tax issues. So this is something that could possibly come up, but we are not, we don't have the background to advise on what somebody should be doing in the preparation of their taxes, as it relates to what they claim.
okay. I guess that negates my next question that I
Yeah, we
had.
don't prepare taxes. We help resolve the issues.
Uh, what is it that taxpayers should know as it relates to receiving money from those financial, the Venmo, the Cash Apps, and things like that, if they're lending money and then people are paying them back?
That gets even a whole more complicated because now,
Yeah.
again, financial transactions, certain things are supposed to be reported to the IRS. That's something that they need to talk to their tax professional about and really have good records because if you are servicing loans, things like that, interest can be deductible and certain things like that have to be reported to the IRS.
No, I meant like
But
personal loans. Hey, like,
yeah,
I lent my sister $500 and then now she's sending me back, but she's sending it in Cash App. Or, I mean,
or
that type
somebody
of
pays for
thing.
Again,
dinner, right? And then
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
sends
or
money.
somebody's reimbursing you. Like, what is it that they need to notate or what they got to do so that they don't then get these notifications from these financial institutions that, hey,
whatever documentation you can. So if you can have a contract in place, things like that. Because at the end of the day, if the IRS comes back and says, hey, your financial institution reported these types of transactions, these were taxable, and you didn't include them, it's going to be on you to prove that those weren't taxable. And then it's going to be or it's going to be on you to show whatever documentation that pulls it away from the IRS.
And I think what everybody uses this to send money back and forth to their friends or
Mhm.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? When we go out, we split the tab, whatever. This is new, Joe, isn't it
Yeah.
a new
This is
requirement that
very
they're
new, and we're going
reporting?
to be figuring out
And
together.
so I don't think that issue has come up yet, but I'm certain that it will in the future. I don't know how they're determining, I don't think we know how they're determining what is taxable income and what is you paying somebody back, right? The only thing I can think of are those notations in there that we tend to
Mm-hmm.
put silly stuff in sometimes. And now I'm like, oh, there might be a reason to put dinner
Hmm.
at whatever with friends,
Exactly.
on this date. That's all I can think of. So that you can show some people use it more than others on just a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it might be something to keep track of in the notes section of those apps. But honestly, this has only been a requirement, Joe, for maybe 3 years, 2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't even know that they did anything with it the first year.
We haven't seen anyone on the back end with issues that required us to go fight with the IRS about it. But I'm sure it'll be coming. It's just a matter of time. I wish I could give you more like details with that, but the reality is it's still kind of an unknown. All I could say is keep track of everything, be as detailed as you can with your notes. So that way, if anything is reported to the IRS and they come back and say, well, you had this amount, it was reported, you can show what it was related to, that it wasn't income or anything that was taxable. So just try to keep good records and annotations of anything, especially if you think it might be significant.
What happens if a company or somebody goes out of business and they never get their 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 W was it the W-2, W-9?
Mhm. Yeah, so if you
And
don't receive that, that becomes an issue as well because you're going to file your return. It's not going to match up. There are processes for that. Addition is essentially what's going to happen is the what I talked about at the beginning. You're going to get flagged. They're going to send you a notice saying, "Wait a minute, your thing didn't match up with our thing, and here's the changes we made. If you disagree, here's what you do." That's where you're going to have to really have some, be able to show them everything, your emails, text messages, all these things to say, no, no, I work for this person. Here's my bank account. Here's what I was, paid, all of this stuff. Um,
Well,
now,
this is where the account comes in handy also,
yep.
having the IRS account. My daughter had this happen last year. And so the company she worked for went out of business. They never sent her W-2. There you can go into your account and look at the information that the IRS has collected, right? The employers are supposed to send the information to the IRS. So in a
mhm,
good situation, the employer has sent the
they're
information like
paying
they're
the
supposed to
payroll
the
taxes.
IRS. In her
Mhm.
situation, they did not. She ended up having a friend who did get one, and we were able to get the company number,
Yeah,
identification
yeah.
number off of there. It took some doing, but they eventually submitted the information to the IRS. We just didn't have all the details from it. And she was a student, so it wasn't a significant amount of money, but we were able to find the amount of money to at least include that in her taxes. But we did it with her online account. And you can
So
also, I think the other option was going to be if we didn't get that information, you have to file something with the IRS that says, I did not get
Yeah.
this information, I don't have it. And then we had to go back through her, like Joe said, through the bank accounts, and we looked at all the deposits that she had, and that's where we were going to come up with the number.
Yeah.
hmm.
That's why
So
I
in other
say
words,
keep track of everything because if anybody gets popped for whatever the reason is, the IRS is correct unless you can show that they are wrong.
Yeah.
You got to have documentation or something. That's why I preach it. I'm beating this horse. I don't care if it's dead and in the ground already. They are right unless you can prove them wrong. Make sure that you have enough to prove them wrong with whatever you are doing.
okay, I'm gonna put that little note on the email too. FYI, IRS is right unless you can prove them wrong.
But and that's true. And Joe is always saying that, but that's really the way it is. And if you think about it that way, right, it becomes a lot easier to figure out how this is going to go. In my daughter's situation, I think what would have happened is we would have come up with a number, right, based on the deposit. She had some that were direct deposit and some that were checks. So we were like adding everything up to come up with a number. We were going to use that number, but I can see what might have happened is we would have been off by a little bit. And the IRS would have come back to her and said, "Hey, they may have, or they may just let it go because it might have been a small amount, but they would have shown that discrepancy, right? The IRS would be right in that situation unless she could have proved, no, 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 I'm correct. But in that situation that I just described, we probably would have had to go with the IRS because we wouldn't have had, detailed proof. And
Yeah.
it was probably correct in that specific situation.
Yeah. So if you're
So
working with a
yes,
shady employer, document everything.
Yeah, definitely.
so yes, the burden of proof is on us as a comment that somebody put in there.
Yes. Burden of
But
proof is on you.
there was
Absolutely.
there was another question here. Are hard copies of instructions for tax returns locally available?
I don't know if there's hard copies anywhere to go to. You may be able to go to like the law library or something, but every instruction, every form is on the IRS website. If you don't have access to a computer or the internet, please go to your public library or whatever your
Hmm.
local resource is for that. Access the IRS website, everything you need for your taxes, any question you have, it's going to be there. Talking about the Social Security earlier, if you go on there and type in the specific type of Social Security you get, they're going to have instructions and information related to you on there. There's even tools and stuff on there to help you identify whether you qualify for stuff, how much you're going to qualify for, how much you might owe. It has everything on that website. So please go there and look for any instruction forms, publications, whatever it is, they're going to be there.
Yeah, what happened to the at the actual libraries of the post office? They used to have the wall, and maybe I'm kind of dating myself, but they used to have I probably am. You used to walk in and see this whole wall with all these different, 1040 EZ and
Now it's all online,
This
everything.
happened. We got these now.
yeah,
Uh,
see, no, it's not just me. She remembers too.
just to give you all a little, it'll probably explain this. So the current CEO of the IRS, because we don't have an acting director of the IRS, we have a CEO of there, but he has made it clear that his intent is as soon as possible to convert everything digitally. That means all communications, returns, everything is going to be digital. So that's why you're not seeing a lot of that. They're trending towards trying to make everything away from paper. How soon that is going to happen, I can't give you an honest answer with that, but that is how they're trending. Um, how it's going to affect folks that don't have access or who do things through paper only, we're going to figure this all out together.
Plus, the whole digital thing, doesn't that make it easier for people to commit fraud and scams? And if everything is digital, that somebody can kind of tap into and,
I'm going to
hack
share
and
my
all kinds of
screen and
stuff.
show you what the IRS has got. If y'all don't mind, let me know when you can see it.
It's loading. Okay. Browser friendly forms and publication.
Yeah,
Okay.
so let's just click on them and see. But these are, I think you're talking about those little real thin paper packets, right? That you used to
Mhm.
go be able to pick up off the wall at the
Yeah.
press place and at the library and the post office, like it was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
These are the guides. Like here's Armed Forces Tax Guide, and it just takes you to the page, and then you click on all this information. So basically, I'm guessing they can do a lot more online, right? Um, so here's where they are. Look at all the
Can
different
you
forms.
can you shoot me the link or copy that link and put it into the
It's
chat?
just irs.gov.
Uh,
Yeah, we can put it in the chat.
and that way I can make sure that it gets included on the resources page when I
Yeah,
And
send
it's
it.
in our presentation. Like, just go to the website. It's pretty, if we go to the main page, this is what it looks like. They have done a lot to make it more user friendly, I think, over the years. You can go, make payments on your account. refunds. You can check to see where your refund is. You can get information. Um, Here are the different credits and deductions, and you just go through and you click on all the different things that might be available. Like, and it's going to take you forms for business credits. There are all your forms. So it may take a little, playing around on the website. Nobody wants to play around on an IRS website, but it's fascinating how much information they have managed to put in there. And it seems like for the most part, it's user friendly. It keeps getting more user friendly. The actual tax code is not user friendly, and the information is not. But one of the other things that Joe and I played around with on there was the AI assistant. I don't know where it is on the
You can
website, but
type
you
it.
can
Yeah, I
type
can see.
in um, child tax credit. Do you want to start a review? And you can put in, it says, how many kids do you have? Then it goes through and asks you a series of questions. Yes, you qualify. No, you don't qualify as your outcome. So that can give you kind of like a first look at whether you qualify for earned income tax credit, for child tax credit, just by inputting certain information, and it'll walk you through.
Yep.
So for the person that asks for hard copy of instructions of tax returns, that depends on what kind of tax return they're filing and the deductions and the all of that kinds of stuff that needs to go in there before in order for them to know what instructions that they need.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
unfortunately, hard copies are going to be hard to come by unless you're the one printing them. It's just everything's trending to digital. They assume everybody has a phone these days. I guess they're forgetting that there are some seniors that may not have kept up with technology, and I honestly am not sure how they're going to accommodate them, especially with folks that are so used to just paper versions of things like that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
just because, well, even with us, we don't have any paper versions of anything. All of our stuff is all digital. When we're
Mhm.
working with the IRS, everything's all digital. So
Yeah, someone said older, less tech savvy taxpayers are in trouble.
unfortunately, yes. Yeah.
Well, you saw
Yeah.
me today. I can't manage Zoom, so, and that's
Um,
because I've been taught.
but if you do need help, you can always reach out to your representatives, local representatives, city, state, whoever. Most folks are going to be able to help you in some capacity if you let them know. And I know if you don't have the phone or anything, you can call, you can write your letters or things like that too.
One last question I have, and I don't know how much of this you can answer. How what are some of the most common issues or problems that you all come across as it relates to a lot of independent small business owners and filing their taxes, especially like the Uber drivers, the Lyft drivers, the
Yep.
the what do you call it, the Instacart, all those folks that are technically independent
Yep.
contractors. What's the most common issue?
Couple of issues with those. One, not reporting it. People don't think that it gets reported, and so they never include it on their returns, which it is being reported. The IRS already knows about it, and so they're going to pop you for not including that income on your returns. Um, the other thing is if you don't include that income, the IRS is going to make sure that income gets included, but they're not going to put in any deductions, expenses, or things like that. To give you a little quick story, I was helping an individual out at the tax court for this specific issue. He was an Uber driver who didn't report his Uber income. Problem is, the IRS had that income, but they only had the total amount of income that he made from Uber, not what was actually deposited in his account, because IRS had a $30,000 income for him for Uber. But the reality is he only made about 10 to 15K after all of his expenses and fees that Uber pulled out after his insurance and things like that. But the IRS didn't account for any of that. So his tax liability was very, very high. So then he had to go in and amend a return, add in that income properly, which he should have done the first time, and then add in his deductions and things like that. And once he did all that, then it brought his tax liability down to zero, which was a lot different than the 10,000 that the IRS was saying he was going to owe because they didn't include all of that stuff. So that's
Oh,
one. The other one is the tax preparer fraud that we were talking about earlier, especially with Uber, Lyft drivers. They tell you, oh, well, you're working a business, you're an independent contractor, an independent business, you qualify for all these credits, and they claim like the fuel tax credit for you. But you do not qualify for it because you drive a regular vehicle on the regular roads. You do not have specialty equipment that are off-road, farm, things like that. You do not qualify if you are an Uber or Lyft driver for the fuel tax credit. So if your tax preparer tries to put it on there and say, hey, you can claim $50,000 this year for this fuel tax credit. No, you cannot. And you are going to end up in trouble for that. Those are the big ones, and deductions. If you're gonna do itemized deductions for whatever your business, especially if it's Uber driver, Lyft, things like that, make sure you keep very, very good records. If you do not have good records, take the standard deduction. Otherwise, you're gonna run into issues because they're gonna say, well, why are you deducting this much? And we want to see all of your receipts and everything that shows that they qualify.
Is there a list somewhere there on the IRS website of like standard deductions for certain types of
Yes.
industries
Yep.
or
You can go
okay,
onto the IRS website, type in standard deductions for small businesses, standard deductions, anything you want, just type in the keyword, it's going to pop up for you. But yeah, all that information is going to be available there.
And a lot of those instructions
Mhm.
also, when you're preparing your taxes, have examples of what qualifies and what doesn't qualify, especially if you're like a sole proprietor or, a lot of what these Uber drivers, DoorDash, all of that are.
and do they need to file like a what do you call it? Like file a DBA to prove, or they just do it under their name? There's no
A
DBA
lot
or
of
anything
people
like
do it
that
under their
required.
name.
They just do it under their name, but the company is going to issue a 1099. That 1099 is going to the IRS, so they already know that you're getting that income. As long as that
Gotcha,
income is flowing into your personal tax return, they don't care. They just want to make sure all the numbers and everything are correct.
gotcha. All right, a lot of great information here. I don't see any other questions here from anybody else in the chat or online. So if there are any other questions that come about, definitely reach out. If you guys do again have any need for any civil legal assistance, we do encourage you to reach out. So thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon. Great information, great comments for you guys. So thank y'all very much, Marty, Carmen, and Joseph. Certainly appreciate you all taking the time out this afternoon to provide this information to the community.
Thank you so much.
Much needed, much needed. So a lot of great information. All the links and all the information that you all did review, a copy of your presentation, the links for those various resources will be included on the email when I send out the link of this recording for you all to go back to watch and or share with somebody else that you also know that may find this information to be beneficial as well. We do encourage you to do that as well, to pay it forward. It does us all no good to just keep all this information to ourselves. So definitely share it with other people if you can. So,
Yes.
all right. With that being said, again, thank y'all very much this afternoon for joining us. Thank you, Houston Volunteer Lawyers, and on behalf of our other AMOS partners for coming out this afternoon. We hope to see y'all again next time. Let's see what we've got coming up next week is the first of full official month of uh, of the AMOS workshops. On Tuesday, on Wednesday, we have our Money, Health, and Wealth Financial Capability Series. The first topic there is how to maintain your relationship with money. We have our wills and advanced legal planning, part one, and why do you need it, on Thursday, and then we have our first time homebuyer education class that's scheduled for next Saturday. So if you guys are interested in attending either of those, I will include a calendar on the email that I send out those as well. Uh, you all are so very welcome. Thank you too for joining us again. It's great to see you guys. We used to do these sessions in person, and it's kind of hard to recognize people's names, but we don't see the faces anymore. But I do definitely recognize some of the names of the folks that are in here. So thank you guys for continuing to support a month of service and this collaboration. The information that we try to provide to the community is information that we know that is much needed. And again, a lot of folks that don't know about these resources that are out there, especially like the VITA clinics and the different sites and locations where you can go to get your income taxes prepared for free, legal services that are available for free. If you would just apply for the service, that you can get access to that as well. So you all have a wonderful remainder of your afternoon. You all take care of yourselves. You stay safe, stay warm. Until tomorrow, it'll probably be 70 degrees again, and then, back down to 40. So who knows? But you all
Why'd
stay
you
safe.
say it? You had to say it.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having us.
All right. You all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.